Our next speaker is Victoria Love. She is a licensed master social worker dedicated to providing empathetic, patient-centered support for individuals and families with complex healthcare needs. A summa cum laude graduate from the University of Texas at Arlington, she delivers holistic, compassionate care through case management, resource referrals, and patient advocacy with a focus on continuity of care and patient empowerment. She is committed to making sure clients feel supported, informed, and confident throughout their care journey. Thank you so much, Victoria, for being here. I am going to be sharing your slides, so give me just a minute to get those up.
Sure. Thank you for the kind introduction, Sarah.
Alrighty, as long as you can see that, feel free to take it away.
Okay, wonderful. Well, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. Like Sarah said, my name is Victoria. I'm a licensed master social worker in Texas. And a little bit about me, I do work in a neurology clinic, and I have the honor of supporting individuals with ALS, their caregivers, as well as individuals with other neurological conditions. So today I want to offer some tools, some validation, some space to breathe. It's a safe space. And today's conversation is about the caregiver and emphasizing that your wellness matters. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Thank you. So some of the things we're going to be touching on today is the emotional impact of neuromuscular diseases, understanding needs, common challenges, coping with change and grief, managing stress, building a support network, preventing burnout, and seeking professional help. Then we'll go over some helpful resources at the end. Next slide, please. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get right into it. We all know that there is an emotional impact when it comes to the diagnosis of a neuromuscular disease. And one of the emotional impacts that we see is grief and ambiguous loss, right? So this is where caregivers often grieve ongoing changes and uncertainty, even though their loved one is still physically present. There's also role changes and identity shifts. So as caregiving responsibilities increase, family roles may change. Spouses, children, or siblings may feel like they're losing parts of their previous identity. An emotional toll on caregivers and families. So this is constant vigilance, medical decisions, and emotional labor can lead to anxiety, depression, or compassion fatigue over time. And one of the most profound challenges in navigating grief is that sometimes there's really no clear endpoint. So this is what we call ambiguous loss. It's grieving the changes, the uncertainty, the slow shift in identity roles. So maybe now you're a nurse and a coordinator and a communicator, all these things that maybe you didn't used to be, but now you're all of them in one. And with that shift can come emotional fatigue and isolation. So these experiences are valid. They are unfortunately incredibly common, even if nobody talks about them. Next slide, please. Understanding needs. So when we think about care, we often focus on the physical, right? But emotional needs are just as important, just as vital. So for our loved ones, this might mean needing to feel heard and validated, like here on number 1, or just wanting that autonomy in making small decisions when everything else can feel out of control. Number 2, for caregivers, emotional needs, boundaries, and outlets. So for caregivers, emotional needs are unfortunately often pushed aside, but those boundaries, those emotional outlets, and even moments of solitude are necessary to show up fully and compassionately. And number 3, for signs of stress, irritability, fatigue, and detachment. So stress is something that often builds pretty slowly, right? So sometimes that can look like maybe snapping at small things or feeling exhausted even after sleeping, or even feeling disconnected from the person that you're caring for. When you start to see these signs of stress, these are the signs to kind of pause and check in with yourself. And then navigating unmet needs, these are the needs that we don't even know or we're not even sure how to voice. And it's okay if there are things that you wish were different. Acknowledging these doesn't make you ungrateful by any means, it more so makes you human. And next slide, please. Common challenges. Okay, so let's name some of the most common emotional hurdles. So this can be isolation, guilt, family stress. Caregiving can sometimes feel like living in a parallel world, right? Where your worries are not necessarily matching those around you. That guilt sometimes can creep in when you're doing your absolute best. And sometimes families cope differently, so that whether it's by avoiding or over controlling or even stepping back, those types of coping can cause friction. So there are some challenges, and these challenges are painful, but they are common. So isolation and disconnection, again, the caregiving journey can feel lonely, especially when others don't fully understand that emotional weight that you're carrying. Guilt and not doing enough. So again, many caregivers struggle with guilt, feeling like no matter how much they do, it's just never enough. And then those family communication breakdowns where those tensions arise when family members are coping differently or fail to share responsibilities. Next slide, please. Okay, coping with change and grief. This can be difficult, but some aspects of coping with change and grief are grieving the life you imagined, finding meaning through the experience, holding grief and hope together, and even honoring the small moments. Grief is one of those things that it just shows up in waves, and it's not even always after a loss, but it can occur during ongoing changes, right? So you might grieve this version of your life that you imagined, and that is completely normal. However, there are caregivers that find these moments of deep connection, presence, sometimes even strength they didn't even know they had. And so it's not an either or, it's more of both. So grief and hope can exist together. And sometimes meaning can emerge through unexpected places. So whether that's conversations that would have never happened otherwise, or new depths of love, or even your own resilience, these don't take away pain, but these experiences can offer comfort. And in regards to small moments, we don't want to underestimate those. Sometimes just like a shared laugh, a quiet moment or morning together, or sometimes even just sitting in silence can be precious. And recognizing these moments doesn't ignore all the hard. It really helps to balance it with the beauty. So this dual awareness is one of the most courageous parts of caregiving. And as your journey is shifting, as the changes come, it is so important to extend compassion to yourself. The way that you used to cope, or things that may have worked for you at some point during the journey, it might not work for you any longer. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing something wrong. It just means that you're human. So every stage is going to call for new care, whether that's for your loved one or especially for yourself. And grief is not this linear just path. Again, it can loop back. So you might feel okay for a while, and then that weight might return. So it doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. It just means that you're navigating the journey with a full heart. So again, it's just very important to offer yourself grace every time these feelings or these changes resurface. Next slide, please. Managing stress. How can stress be managed? So one of the ways is through breathing and grounding techniques. So simple tools like deep breathing or body scans can bring your nervous system out of survival mode. Journaling routines and gentle movement, so these small daily habits that build emotional resilience and they help you process your feelings. And then also small steps that calm the nervous system. So 5 minutes of calm sometimes is all it takes to just reset your body and your mind, because the truth is stress is inevitable, right? But it doesn't have to consume you. So our nervous systems, they are built to respond to danger. But in caregiving, when you're a caregiver, that heightened alert can become chronic. So simple grounding tools, whether that's like the deep breathing or doing body scans, these can help to shift your body out of that fight or flight mode. So it's important to try integrating rituals that feel comforting, whether that's a couple minutes of journaling, doesn't have to be long, whether it could be stretching, just taking a step outside for air. It may feel like a task, but it can really be an invitation to come back into your body, into your mind, and again, try to help shift you out of that fight or flight. So thinking small, 5 minutes. Stress relief doesn't always require a really big time commitment. It's more so the intention behind it, right? So these moments are about building internal safety. So when you're creating small pauses and you're taking that 5 minutes, that 7 minutes, that 10 minutes, your body is learning that it is safe to rest. And then that safety is going to eventually ripple out into your caregiving, your relationships, your overall sense of peace. And so, even in the midst of stress and chaos, you are still worthy of the calm, and it's important to emphasize that. Next slide, please. Building a support network. So, this one can be tough for some caregivers, and that's okay. But we want to talk about that a little bit more. So, in building a support network, it is important to understand that you don't have to do this alone, right? So, support is not a luxury, it's a necessity. We all need support, especially as caregivers. Peer and professional support. So, whether it's a friend, a therapist, a support group, these connections can help lighten the load. And letting other people help you is ultimately a strength, not a weakness. A lot of people find or have the mentality that, letting other people in for help is a weakness, but actually accepting support can allow you to be a better caregiver and then also have more energy and to put a pause on any building resentment that could be occurring. So support doesn't always look like a big team. Sometimes support is one friend, it could be, your one therapist, your one group. Just having that support in your corner of somebody that gets it, and just reiterating that letting somebody in does not mean that you're failing. It just means that you're wise enough to know that community is healing. So your well-being is always a part of the caregiving equation too. So just emphasizing the validity of building a support network. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, preventing burnout. Let's talk about it. Burnout equals depletion plus disconnection. When we're drained and emotionally distant, we lose connection to ourselves and our loved ones. Boundaries and breaks matter. So, protecting your time, your energy, this is all act of love, not selfishness. We do deserve care. So, caregivers, again, often forget sometimes that they are worthy of that same tenderness that they're giving to others, that they're giving to their family members, that they're giving to their loved ones. And burnout is preventable at regular check ins. So, pausing to ask, what do I need today? Sometimes can help you stay in tune with your limits, right? And burnout, it doesn't just mean being tired. Sometimes that term is used interchangeably, but sometimes burnout is feeling emotionally disconnected too, right? When you're in constant give mode and you don't have room to recharge, sometimes fatigue builds, sometimes resentment builds. So having boundaries is not necessarily being barriers, it's more so having bridges to sustainability, right? So you do deserve care, not because for any other reason other than you're human and you deserve it. These daily check-ins, the what do I need right now, asking yourself that can help you catch burnout way before it starts to set in. So sometimes when you take that moment to ask, maybe the answer is just like 5 minutes of quiet time, or it might be connection. Whatever it may be, you have permission to listen to your needs just as much as you're listening to the needs of others. And we have to start normalizing, celebrating these acts of small self care. So, whether that's stepping out for a moment, taking a walk, even saying no to something that you can't manage, allowing yourself a brief moment of rest, these are all forms of resilience, and recognizing them and putting a name to them will help you build that habit of self kindness. Next slide, please. Okay, seeking professional help. So, therapy can offer validation and coping tools. Therapists can help caregivers process grief, guilt, and anxiety in a non judgmental space. We talk a lot about support groups in this community. Support groups are so important. Peer groups remind you that you're not alone, and provide shared strategies and encouragement. Medical professionals can help with stress related symptoms. So, if you're experiencing physical signs of stress, this is definitely something you want to address with your provider so that they can be a part of your wellness team too. Because sometimes we need more than a break. Sometimes caregivers need somebody to help carry this emotional weight, right? So, therapy again is going to offer that place to kind of sort through any complicated feelings without fear of burdening someone else. A lot of times there's those feelings of being a burden, right? But in therapy, it's completely a safe space. And contrary to some popular belief, you don't always have to be in crisis to seek help, right? Along with therapy, support groups can be incredibly powerful, especially when you're not the only one navigating this path. And again, just if you're feeling that strain in your body from stress related symptoms, your doctor can help. So seeking help is not weakness at all. It's wisdom. It's things that caregivers need. Next slide, please. So some helpful resources. First and foremost, MDA caregiver support resources. They have so many tools, resources, educational content. I think she's also dropping some links in the chat there. Therapy locator tools. So Psychology Today as one of the most popular therapy locator tools. This can be good for caregivers and loved ones alike. If you're not familiar with Psychology Today, it's a platform where you can search for therapists and you can filter by a variety of filters, whether that's location, whether it's the reason behind why you are needing services. You can filter by insurance, things like that, and it'll bring you up a list of providers that will match that search, right? And same with Open Path Collective. This platform is very similar. The main difference is that they do offer sliding scale and low cost services as well to find affordable therapy. And again, it's very awesome that they have the ability to search via filters. So if you search for caregiver stress or chronic illness or depression, anything that you put in as a filter, they will be able to match you with mental health providers or therapists that specialize in those entities. And also, many providers do offer services virtual as well as in person. So it gives you options if it's easier to do it virtual. Caregiver specific mental health resources. So, Caregiver Resource Network and the Family Caregiver Alliance provide additional resources, emotional support, and self care tips. They also have they have online communities. I know they also have some downloadable toolkits. So, you can check them out and see what resources that may resonate with you on their site. If you are ever finding yourself in a crisis or your loved one is ever finding themselves in a crisis, the 988 Lifeline, Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, is available 24/7. So I just want to let everybody know that that is a 24/7 resource that is available. Also, books and podcasts. So wellspouse.org has a reading list that some may find beneficial. You could check that out. And for podcasts, there's the ALS Pathways podcast, Everything ALS podcast. There's quite a few ALS related podcasts out that people enjoy, so you could check those out as well. These podcasts and books, they can bring education, that sense of community, more comfort. So I recommend checking those out. Next slide, please. Okay, so again, for our caregivers that are on the call today, you may not hear this often, but you do matter, and the work that you do is incredibly hard and very meaningful. So remember that caring for yourself is a part of caring for your loved one, and you don't need to have a perfect plan or radical change. It really can start with small steps. So, allowing space for your emotions and seeking that support when you need it. But thank you for all that you guys give. I hope today's session reminded you that you're not alone. And I think now would be a good time to see if we have any questions or thoughts or reflections. It's a super safe space here. If you just have anything you want to share, I'll hold space for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victoria. That was a very helpful presentation. We did collect some questions upon registration, so if anyone has any live questions that they'd like to type into the chat, feel free, but I'm going to start with these. It looks like you touched on some of these, but where can I get a healthcare manager to oversee my needs and advocate for me?
Oh, that's a great question. If you have a ALS provider or you're a neurologist, if you are associated with an ALS clinic, they may have a social worker on staff, so that could be a good place to start to get connected with them. That way, they can help to address some of those needs and help with care coordination. And if your neurologist clinic doesn't have one, they should be able to connect you with those resources in that area.
Great ideas. Thank you.
Yeah.
This one says, where can I begin to look for respite resources for caregivers?
Yeah, that is a great question. Um, every state is going to be different, right? So it could be hard to compile um, an overarching answer, but a good place to start can be your local area agency on aging. So every state, I believe, has that. That can be a good place. Sometimes it varies by counties, but you can look up like your county or your region and put area agency on aging, and those entities usually will have resources for respite care in your area and can even connect you with maybe any additional programs that may be available in your area. But also, if you do have a social worker at your clinic or at your neurologist's office or even at your primary care's office, wherever you have access to a social worker, that would be a great question to ask them as well so that they can give you resources that are local to that area.
Great, thank you. Now, I know that you talked about how to search for professional services. Um, I definitely want to mention that I've been to that Psychology Today website and I know it's very user friendly. So I'm glad that you mentioned that as a resource. But somebody wants to know, are there any free support groups or therapy resources?
Yeah. So, for one, the ALS Association has support groups. So, if you're not already connected with the ALS Association, that would be a good place to start. I believe they do virtual sessions. Again, that may vary by your region and when it's available. And but I know here in Texas, or at least in my region, they do offer virtual support groups, and it varies. So they have some for caregivers, some for veterans, some for men. So they have a variety of groups. And the MDA also has virtual support groups as well. So you can start there too.
Yes, we do. We will be linking in our chat a link to our community support groups. And again, just like you said, there are different groups for different reasons. And then the last question I have here for you are there therapists that specialize in ALS?
So this is a great question. So this is something that will vary by your area. Oftentimes, when it comes to mental health providers or therapists, they are confined to their state that they are licensed in. So even if I knew one, it may not be someone that everybody could see, right? So I would suggest going on like those sites and and looking up, filtering through the filters for like chronic illness. And that would be a good time whenever you're having like that consultation with a therapist to see, like, are you familiar with this? Or if they know somebody that might be. Also, again, I'm going to put this back to the social workers that may be available at your clinics or in your providers' offices. They should know if there's anybody that provides those services local to you, or they may provide those services themselves. So that would be a good place to start with that.
Great. Well, that's all the questions that we have. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your time and expertise with us today. And thank you for everything you do for the community.
Thank you so much for having me. This is just wonderful. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Now, for everyone else, I am just going to wrap it up with some information here, and then we will conclude today's portion. And tomorrow we will be back with more presentations at the same time tomorrow. This year marks MDA's 75th anniversary. This milestone has been made possible by generations of dedicated support from people living with neuromuscular disease, their families, researchers, clinicians, volunteers, and donors who boldly drive our mission forward. As we look ahead, we remain committed to honoring this legacy, building on the impact we've made together, and continuing our momentum toward transformative progress for people living with neuromuscular disorders. Last but not least, we again invite you to join the MDA community. Joining is free and will help you stay up to date on our programs as well as the latest research. Please scan the QR code with your smartphone or visit the link in the chat. I want to be sure to thank our program supporters one final time. Thank you to Biogen and Mitsubishi Tanabe Pharma America for supporting this event. And I would again like to thank our presenters today for sharing their time and expertise. And we want to be sure to hear from you. What did you like about today's program? What can we do differently in the future? Please fill out the brief survey that will pop up right after this webinar. Your feedback is important to us. If you have any questions, are looking for support or resources, please contact MDA's Resource Center at 1-833-275-6321 or via email at resourcecenter@mdausa.org. This concludes day one of the virtual learning series on ALS, and we hope to see you tomorrow.